This is Deep Dive into Joy, and I'm your host, Gina Rickner. Hey, Joy listeners, it's your host, Gina. I want to welcome you back to Deep Dive into Joy. This is where we talk about health and wellness, our faith journeys, testimonies, and what it means to live a full purpose life. Each week, you will either hear from yours truly, or I will have incredible guests on who are walking through their callings and doing it with joy. Today, I'm very excited to introduce to you Melissa Thompson. She is a licensed physical therapist who brings not only skill and heart to her patients, but also a deep faith that fuels her every day. We're talking about healing, burnout, calling, and the joy that can be found in the middle of it all. Melissa works at Radius Physical Therapy here in Clearfield. This is where I met her working through my healing journey after my tumor removal and radiation, and we quickly became good friends. And all of them there are absolutely amazing. I recommend Radius Physical Therapy to anybody that is in the area. Before we get started with the show, I want to introduce to you today's podcast sponsors. Midday Squares is a functional chocolate square that satisfies your cravings. They are non-GMO, all in great ingredients, and they don't raise your blood sugar. That's why I love them. Especially going through cancer, you don't want to be eating a lot of sugar, and you don't want your blood sugar to be a complete roller coaster throughout the day with what you're eating. And I know that everyone craves sweets, so this is a great, healthier way to eat them. They have peanut butter, almond crunch, chocolate cookie dough, which is my favorite, brownie batter, and crunchy peanut. They are just the right size and the snack for my midday craving and pick-me-up. They have 6 grams protein and 4 grams fiber, so you're going to want to stock up on these. Check out my link for 15% off. It's www.middaysquares.com/deep-dive, all capital. Our next sponsor is Dwell Apparel. Dwell Christian Apparel is what you're going to need for your everyday life routine. I have found that wearing these clothes with the word of Jesus is a great conversation starter to just help you lead into a friendly conversation with people. This business is family owned and American made. I recently bought some really cute t-shirts and sweatshirts and I absolutely love them. They're great material, beautiful patterns and sayings and verses. They have for men, women, kids, plus accessories and handbags. Shop Dwell Apparel because it's an easy way to share Jesus with someone. And the holidays are coming up as well, so these would make absolutely great gifts. So make sure you go check my link, dwellapparel.com/?NFANMBYT, or use code Gina Rickner, all capital. Again, that'll get you 15% off. I know some of these links are a little bit funky, so I do list them in the show notes so they're easier to find, and you can find them under my highlights on Facebook and Instagram. Melissa, I just want to welcome you to the show. I'm thrilled to have you here, and I just start every podcast with, what is your favorite drink?
Well, first, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. My favorite drink is coffee, because my favorite time of the day is the morning, and I love to wake up when everything is dark and the house is silent, and I grab my coffee and put a lot of creamer in it and go to town.
What kind of creamer?
It's International Delight. I think it's sweet and creamy, something like that.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what drew you to physical therapy.
So when I was in high school, when I was a junior, I had to take what was called an ASVAB test. And this test, based on how you answer the questions, would tell you what you'd be good at. And mine came back occupational therapist, physical therapist, or a bus driver. And I know. And I kind of chuckled at the bus driver. I was like, well, that's not going to happen. And so on a whim, I picked physical therapy, even though I didn't know the difference between the two. And I signed up to enrolled in the physical therapist assistant program at Mount Aloysius. And within the first 2 weeks, I realized how much I loved the profession. And after I graduated, I realized it wasn't enough. And the following year, I went back to school to be a physical therapist.
I love that. So, what does a typical day look like for you?
We can see anywhere between 10, 12 patients, depending on the day. Because I'm a physical therapist, I can sometimes evaluate up to 3 or 4 new patients a day in conjunction with treating the patients that we already have. Um, we stagger our hours, so some of the therapists will open the clinic at 7, and some therapists come in at 10 o'clock and will close the clinic at 7.
So, I would imagine that job can be physically and emotionally demanding. So, how do you deal with that?
So it definitely is. Because of my size, it's definitely physically demanding because we have patients who are a lot bigger, um, and physical therapy is a very physical job. You have to do manual therapy on people, and that part can be taxing. But I would say what's even more taxing is the emotional, mental aspect of it, because there's a lot of extra stuff that goes into it as far as documentation and billing that requires a lot of thought process and time to make sure that you bill correctly so you can get paid for what you do.
Hmm.
That part I would say is more taxing than anything.
Yeah, it's very tricky with billing.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you find joy in the work that you do, even on the hard days?
So for me, faith is such a big part of my life that I look at each day as an opportunity given to me by God to do His work. And so, even on the hard days, you reflect back and you realize that you were given that opportunity, that situation for a reason, and you're supposed to live out that moment to the best of your ability. And so, it shows me, even in those moments, that there's a reason for that situation to have occurred, and there's good that's supposed to have come from it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Are there any patient stories that had stayed with you throughout the years?
Yeah, I had a patient probably in the last couple years who had a very traumatic injury, and the diagnosis was one that I didn't have a lot of confidence in. And when she told me her story of how she came to be injured, I felt very sad for her. And I so badly wanted her to get better. And I remember saying to God, "Why did you give me this patient? Because I can't help her. I can't fix her. I don't have the ability, like some of the other therapists, to give her what she needs." And I look back on that because she ultimately did get better. And I asked God to help me with her because I wanted good things for her. And I wanted her to heal from her traumatic event. And in addition to her getting better physically, we had opportunities to talk about God. And I come to find out that she didn't really believe in God. And she wrote me this long email um, that was about her faith and where she was. And she made a comment about there being light in knowing me and having met me, something along those lines. And I got to respond back to her saying that that light wasn't me, that it was God. And that, I hope in her life that she can find that peace and comfort from God, where that's the only place you truly can find that joy and that peace in life. So it stuck with me because it made me realize that even whenever we lack the confidence in our own abilities, there is a reason that God gives you certain situations. And yeah, it's for your own personal growth, but sometimes it's also to lead certain people to Him.
Yeah, it's His light shining through you onto others. As I
Yes.
always pray about that, I'm like, just let your light shine through me, or like, fill me with the water and let your water flow out of me onto others.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's where we have to remember that it's God working through us. Um, and that's why it's important to always remain humble in doing whatever work that you're doing, that you've been created for, whatever your mission is.
So my next question was, when did you feel like PT was more than a job for you, like that it was a calling? Was it in that moment, or is there something else that you can recall?
I would say for me, it was when I came to Radius. There was a lot that had happened prior to Radius opening in 22 that caused a lot of turmoil, a lot of hardship, a lot of suffering, and a lot of darkness. And I I lost my father in November of 2021, and my husband, who has a spinal cord injury, got sick. Um, and then my faith, I hit this point spiritually where God, I felt like left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that was really hard because God is my way that I cope. So when spiritually I lost that, it it put me in this very dark place. And so the only thing I could do was throw myself into work. And if my prayer life wasn't where I needed or needed it to be or felt that it should be, that the only way left for me to serve God was to serve God by serving others. And so that is where I maybe had this little bit of a shift, that I made each working day a way to serve God because my prayer life felt like it was lacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It feels like there's so many people that had had hardships between 2020 to like now, because I went through a lot of hardships from, I would say, I think it probably started in like 22 with my daughter, and then losing a bunch of family members and in my diagnosis. And yeah, it's just crazy to me.
I think too, I mean, just hearing you just rattle off not just one thing, but multiple things, I can relate to that because it's hard enough to have.
It was like one after another. It's like,
Exactly.
how much more, like,
Exactly.
they always say God, doesn't give you more than you can handle, but it's like, I don't know. Like that, those
Exactly.
couple years felt like it was way too much to handle.
I 100% agree with you. You get pushed to the very limit. Um, and I remember so many moments where you're pushed to that limit where you literally feel like you can't do it anymore. And up until that point, you're just like, okay, you're trying really hard to accept your cross and handle things the best you can. And sometimes you hit a point where you're just like, God, why don't you like me? Like, do you not love me anymore? Because it feels, I guess, that difficult, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
It's just emotionally, physically, and mentally, you're so tapped that you feel like you have nothing left to give, but yet you have no choice but to go on.
Yeah. I like that. I never heard accept your cross before.
Really?
I like that little saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think of the story of Job, like where he allowed Satan to put his hands on him, but not to kill him. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite part about working with patients?
Well, I love the idea of helping people, for sure. I love the fact that in this profession, you get to know people. Your patients love you. They hug you. They don't want
That's
to
right.
leave you. Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. And I often talk to my one coworker about this. Physical therapy is truly service on a platter. I mean, every day we get to impact in a positive way so many people. And that's such a gift. I mean, we're here to serve. We're here on this earth to serve. And I have a profession where that's literally my job, is to serve. So I love that. And then the other piece of it is there's so many times where, in addition to physically helping someone, you're given the opportunity to impact someone in an emotional way or a spiritual way. And I love that because my faith is really important to me.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely embraced me with your arms, and it was really cool to become friends with you. It was just like, it was meant to be.
It definitely was. And
It's always, that's what I love about what God has been doing in my life lately. It's all these little God winks, and I just love it so much.
Yes, yes. You have these moments in life where you're just like, you don't trust, or you're not sure, or you're maybe a little resistant to something because you lack confidence, not just in yourself, but in God. Because if He leads you to a situation, there's a purpose, and there's something amazing that can come out of it if you're willing to surrender to Him in that moment.
Yeah, and that's very hard.
It is really hard.
What is one thing people misunderstand about physical therapists, or what they do?
Well, I would say that we can cure them in 24 hours. There's so many times that people will come in and you treat them, and then they come back for their second visit, and you're like, how do you feel? And they say, well, I still hurt. Like, it's been 24 hours. Give me time.
That's funny.
Yeah.
What has been one of the hardest seasons of your career so far?
So I would say there's been two. The first one would honestly span the first several years of my career, because I'm not someone that has confidence in my abilities naturally. And there have been so many moments where I've been down on myself because I didn't think I had what it takes to be a good therapist. And it means so much to me to do a good job. So I would have these little moments where you just want to give up, and God would do something to show me that I'm right where He wants me. Like moments where it just brings you to tears. You're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I'll stick it out. I'll do whatever I got to do to be better. And then I would say the second is what I just talked about with the passing of my dad, my husband who has a spinal cord injury, getting COVID, and then spiritually being in such a dark place, like truly a dark place, no light. And then this whole change from my previous employer to Radius, while that was a good thing, it was another change in a time in my life when there was a complete upheaval. So I hit a point of feeling truly unstable and feeling like there is no hope. And I've never, ever, ever in my life felt that sense of hopelessness except the summer of 22. And so that was really difficult, because to go through all that and then still try to walk in each day and give patients everything that I had.
Yeah, trying to pour out onto them, yeah.
Right, when you felt like you had nothing left to give. So I would say those two moments for drastically different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to home life. How does your faith affect your everyday life?
So with my husband having a spinal cord injury, I'm not just a spouse, but I'm a caregiver. And so often my home life and my work life intermix, they intertwine, they overlap. It's messy. And I have to try to juggle both, sometimes at the same time. And I try very hard to give 100% to both. And sometimes I just have to take a deep breath and say, God has given me this situation, and my job is to do the best I can with it and give the rest back to Him, because it can't be clean and perfect.
Right. There's so many times where you feel like you're not good enough for what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like with this podcast where I have trouble, it's like like, did I hear him right? You know, did I hear his calling right? Or like I'll just have difficulties with it, and I'm like, am I in the right place? Am I equipped for this?
Right.
So yeah, it does take a lot, but like I said, He gives you those God wings, and you know that you're where you're supposed to be.
Right.
Have you ever sensed God working in a room even without saying a word?
Yes. So there's definitely been those days where, regardless of what happens, regardless of what gets handed to you, you're at peace. The whole day you feel calm and at peace, and everything is okay. And it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if a new patient walks through the door and needs to be seen in that very moment. You can handle it. And it's like any other day you would have struggled to accept that situation, but on that particular day you've, I don't know, been given an abundance of grace where you can handle a situation like that, and things just keep coming at you, but yet you feel God's presence and you feel that peace the whole day. And I think back on those moments, and you realize God is with us whether you feel that or not, and you just have to trust.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have an amazing day if you just give it to Him.
So true. What would you say to someone who's searching for joy in their own career or calling? Maybe they're feeling burnout, or like I said, you don't feel equipped.
I feel like my ability to find joy has grown, has expanded, and has become more constant. So I think if you're looking for joy, then you need to first take a step back and realize that that joy and that peace comes from doing God's will. So if you have trouble finding it, then I think you need to take a step back and reflect on, are you doing what God's calling you to do, and are you surrendering each day to Him and accepting whatever comes your way?
Mm-hmm. So what does your joy look like from day to day? Like, do you have any practices or anything that you do to just keep yourself filled?
I definitely feel like my level of joy and my experience with finding joy each day has changed because of the way I approach my day, which we've talked about, just making sure that I give those moments to God. But getting up in the morning and having that silence before the day starts and that time with God is so essential to me. And I feel like it gets me centered and focused on God and ready to start my day. I never, ever, ever start a day without that moment.
Yeah. I wish I could get up early and do that.
When do you get up?
I'm not a morning person.
Oh, well, sometimes people have those moments.
I usually start work at like 9, so I'm pretty late, but
there's time.
I know. How do you listen for God's voice when making a life decision? That's hard for me. I feel like I always pray for like my ears to be open to hear Him, but there's just sometimes where I feel like it's really hard to hear His voice.
Well, I think we all feel that way. But then there's those moments where you do hear him. And so for me, I think if you can get to a place where you're comfortable with silence and you're patient, and not just like, okay, I'm trying to be patient, like, hurry up, answer me, but truly let things slow down, be silent, and you get to this point where maybe you don't necessarily hear the response, but you feel it interiorly.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Like you feel more at peace with a particular decision than you did previously.
Yeah.
And so maybe hearing God's voice isn't necessarily a sound.
I think of it too, like, there's some days, like, even when the sun just hits my face or you
right.
feel the breeze, it's like
That's right.
you feel the Holy Spirit there.
Right,
It's
right.
like not exactly hearing his voice, but you feel it.
Right, right. And sometimes you're not getting an answer that you were necessarily looking for, but when you have those moments, it's like you remember God's love for you.
Mm-hmm.
Or you'll all of a sudden have a greater appreciation or gratitude for that sun, for that warmth.
That's so true.
Yeah.
What is one piece of wisdom you would like to leave for my listeners today?
I think for me, just the way I've tried to approach life, I would say live every moment of your life for God. Never take your focus off of God. In a sense, keep your eye on the prize. I mean, we are ultimately here on this earth to get to heaven and to be with God for all eternity. And so that can't happen if your focus isn't on Him while you're here.
Yeah, I just saw, I'll probably mess it up. I saw something on Facebook. I think it said something like, if you're not willing to take the time to serve God here on earth and want to spend time with Him, why would you want to spend time with Him in heaven?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I've definitely read that also. Yeah. Where your focus is and where your heart is
there your treasures will be
right.
also.
That's right. Exactly.
So I end every podcast with these questions. If you could tell your younger self one thing today, what would that be?
So one thing I would tell myself is to not be overly concerned with what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
Because you become so consumed with the opinions of others that you lose sight of who you are and what God's calling you to do, because you're so worried about what other people think. So that would definitely be one. And the other thing is I wish I would have learned sooner that lack of confidence, I needed to trust God more. I needed to give it to God more. And I needed to ask God for help in those moments of uncertainty, or when I lacked confidence in myself. I learned later that all those times where I wasn't sure and I asked God to help me in that situation, He always did.
Mm-hmm.
And it always came out better than if I wouldn't have asked Him for help. So I would say those two things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And what's the legacy you'd like to leave behind? This is always a difficult question for everyone.
So I thought a lot about this. So I want to be someone who loves.
I think you do that well.
Well, I appreciate that. Because it is important to me. At the end of my life, I want to be tired and I want to be worn out.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to be someone who loved through sacrifice. I want to be someone who sacrifices for others, who suffers for others, And I want people to see my love for them through that sacrifice.
Well, you're already doing that well, so I think you
thank you.
achieved it. What is your favorite Bible verse?
So this is a hard question for me because
For this season, let's put it
this
that way.
season, okay.
The season of life.
I remember when I was reading the Bible one time, one particular verse struck me, and I don't know if I'll say it exactly as it is in the Bible, but it's like a lamb led to the slaughter, like a sheep before the shearers. He was silent and uttered no cry. I love that because it shows us how to suffer. We should suffer silently and with humility because that's what Christ did. And that's a very difficult thing. And in today's world, you see so little evidence of that. And I personally, myself, struggle at times with that. But I don't know. I read that one time and I was just struck by it and I never forgot it. So that's...
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some rapid fire. If you weren't a physical therapist, you'd be a bus driver.
Yeah, right? How about it? You know what? I honestly can say maybe a nun. Yes, I know.
I love that.
When I was little, it was actually something I thought about, being in the world or not being in the world. So, yeah, people might be shocked or
That's
not
cool.
shocked
I love that. What is the most used phrase in the clinic?
Boy, there's so many, but one of them is we kind of just say, just roll with it.
Yeah.
Because so much gets thrown at you that after a while you kind of throw your hands up and just say, whatever, we'll roll with it.
Yeah.
We'll just go with it.
Like that one day the glass broke on the desk.
Oh my gosh,
I still can't believe that.
Exactly. What do you do?
It's so random. What is your favorite snack?
I like potato chips, plain ones, salty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is the fastest way to make you laugh?
This is what's sad about me. Few people can make me laugh.
Oh.
I know. That's really sad. Kind of pathetic. But my one coworker always makes fun of me because he's like, you have a fake laugh. And I can tell when your laugh is not real. And I was like, I know, but I don't want to be rude and not laugh at people. I would say I have a sister who is very quick-witted, and she always makes me laugh. Always, always, always. And so I would say quick-witted people I find funny.
Yeah.
But outside of that...
What is a word that your coworkers would use to describe you?
So I'm not sure, but I remember one time when I was little, this almost makes me cry. My dad told me that I had a big heart.
You sure do.
Well, thank you. But when I reflect on that, I like to think that maybe that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, for sure.
Yeah.
He was right. Melissa, I want to thank you so much for sharing your heart and your story, and you truly are light in this world. If Melissa's story inspired you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review for me. You can subscribe to my YouTube page at youtube.com/Gina-Rickner00. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram at Gina.Rickner. And you're more than welcome, like I said, to message me on Facebook or Instagram. If you are interested in coming on or want to hear more, just message me. I would love to hear some feedback. Whatever you do, wherever you are, joy is possible, and you are never walking alone. Until next time, stay grounded, stay hopeful, and keep living your calling. As always, go out and find the joy today. Bye, friends.